Former CSU athletic director and U.S. Senate candidate Jack Graham said this week that he is considering a run for governor in 2018. Graham said he wants to see if he can win the GOP nomination before he announces a formal decision next month. David, last time we saw Jack Graham, he was running for U.S. Senate, and he had the formidable Dick Wadhams with a pretty good track record running his campaign. But he's also running as a pretty distinct moderate. He's pro-choice as Republicans go. He was likable. In fact, the other thing, he's been a Republican all that long. If he does jump in as the moderate in this governor nominee or governor candidate pool, what chance do you think he has?
I don't think a strong one, because you can look at the Senate race where he lost to a guy who actually had no campaign. Darrell Glenn was very good about going out on his own and speaking and meeting people, and super impressive when he did that. But that was about the entire campaign structure, and he couldn't beat that guy. And now in the Republican gubernatorial field, there's a much more formidable set of people, starting with George Brockler, but who's been running and has a really strong operation, and others as well. You know, and he said what he calls moderate is, he says he's for rational gun control. Well, everybody who's rational would be for rational gun control. But he's sort of implicitly saying that if he ever gets around to mentioning some specific issues, that if you disagree with him, you're irrational. So that's not a particularly good way to win over people by, displaying your moderation and immoderately criticizing other people.
Penn, I know the race within getting the Republican nomination will be difficult, but what do you think Democrats feel if there's a moderate like this in the possible field, that if he somehow got out, do you think Democrats would be worried about running against a moderate Republican?
I think Democrats would be concerned that it would be a different race and a tougher race with him in it. I mean, if you take a look, when Graham lost the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate, there were many Republicans who just basically threw up their hands and said, we're sunk, because Darrell Glenn isn't going to beat Michael Bennet because he's too extreme. And Darrell made no bones about the fact. He really ran on his conservative credentials, and in many respects only met with arch conservatives. He didn't even care about moderate Republicans. He sort of wrote them off and just hoped that he'd get Republican support just by being the party's nominee. I think that what Jack Graham is doing is pretty interesting, and I don't know if it's lucky or savvy, but when you look at what's happening to the Republican Party nationally because of the president's behavior and the fact that a number of folks, some less moderate than others, are beginning to distance themselves, I think Jack Graham is sort of sending out just a buoy or a beacon, trying to figure out what sort of response he gets. He's letting folks in the party know, I'm moderate, I'm pro-choice, I support LGBT rights, I support some sort of gun control, and I don't think he's trying to insult more conservative members of his party. He's simply saying, I support something, which many folks in my party don't even support anything. He's trying to get a read on whether moderates will come back to the party and support a candidacy like his. And if he gets in it and there's support there, he could be formidable.
Ben, you have consulted a long list of candidates on the local level here in Denver, and probably some folks even thought wider aspirations of the city of Denver. Mm-hmm. If the Graham campaign called up Ben Gelt and said, hey, we're on the fence, we're trying to figure this out, what advice, what do you offer them?
You know, I think as a moderate Republican, he's going to have a very difficult time getting out of a primary field or even a caucus. So I would probably suggest run as an independent. You avoid all the primary fighting. You can leverage your wealth. You can leverage your donor network. There are other Republicans, most notably Walker Stapleton, who have yet to get in, who will be getting in, and will have a lot of money coming in from the outside. So if this is a trial balloon in the Republican Party, I suspect it will be popped post-haste. And if he's really serious about wanting to be governor, I think he should pursue a different path. And I think that's how you capture the independent voters who make up a plurality in Colorado, and how you pull in those moderate Republicans, and how you pull in disaffected Democrats, of which there are very many.
Patty, is the acclaimed clown car about to get more crowded?
Yes, it is, because we do know Walker Stapleton, he's having his big fundraiser. Excuse me, it's not really his fundraiser, it's just a friendly fundraiser on the 21st. I think rumors has it that Cynthia Kaufman is still kind of looking at it. So the clown car will get more crowded. And I think if Jack Graham runs as a Republican, he will be the bozo in the bunch, because you're right, as an independent, Tancredo got 30%. We have to remember, it is not impossible for an independent to win in this state. And especially given how people are disaffected from their parties, they might be looking for an alternative.
And he has resources.
That's true. That's true.